Good morning, everybody. It's, what is it today? Well, I don't look at this it's Thursday the 19th. I get up early. I get up at like 2, but it's 5. I posted a couple of those videos. Those of you that see these on YouTube or my blog, a lot of when I repost news articles that deal with some of the videos, you got to be on Facebook to see those news things, because I can't share them on everything. So some of these videos I kind of share. I've read a couple of little stories on the arrests of a couple of Texas deputies, the one in Jim Wells and the other one in Bexar County, who was assault of a child, he was sexually assaulting a child for a year, basically. And it was some other site I've never seen. I was Googling to get the case to share it with you. At the fire department, I had a friend of mine, Mike. I don't know, I doubt Mike watches these. I won't say, there's a few Mikes, I won't say the last name. The guys at the firehouse would know. Mike was a good guy, and he was from Kingsville, grew up there. Some of the guys, like myself, were not native Texans or native from the city. But Mike was a good guy. But Mike was really, he'd get on your nerves in the sense that Mike questioned everything. And one time we had a structure fire, a big house fire. And the way the fire trucks worked in Kingsville is you had 2 firehouses, one called Central Station, which is over by the National Guard Armory that I talked about on the video. That's on one side of town. Then you had a little substation, a small firehouse called Station 2. And I mentioned this before, but I was a driver. That was my main. I fought fires as well and all, but we called it driver because your main job was to drive the truck and pump at the scene and all. So the drivers, most different ones, if you had a fire on one side of town, the firehouse that's closest to the fire, that fire truck should get there first before the other fire truck all the way on the other side of town gets all the way to your side of town. And if it gets at that house fire first, then that's a problem. That means the other guys didn't respond fast enough. They took too much time getting in the truck. I always had a pet peeve with that. So I always made it a point that when a call came in, I was in that truck quick, and sometimes I had to wait a minute or so for the other guy to get in the truck, because I made it as soon as the call came in. No, where's this? I got to comb my hair, go to the bathroom real quick. Guys do that if they got to, take a leak. But the call came in. I made it a point very fast. So one time, but it would make the other drivers who I was upset that they did not do that fast. I said, look, this is your main job. Don't worry about all the other things, politics, union. I said, make sure you get to the damn fire. That's the thing you're supposed to do. So one time we had a fire, and it was on the side of town where that other station was, and I was not working at that station that day. I was all the way on the other side of town at Central Firehouse. But we had a fire all the way on the other side, on the west side. And sure enough, I got to that house first, which I should not have. I should not have been the first fire truck to that house. Mike should have been there. But it got Mike mad, but Mike was like this, where he questioned everything. And so I'm going to give you a feel of how, when you see me talk about some of these cop issues, look, I know the way these things are. So I got to that structure fire. It's by the campus, by the college campus, and my truck got there. The one I drove got there first. So because I got there first, I'm going to pull my hoses, attack lines, and start fighting the fire. And we were short-handed so much, even though you're supposed to just operate the truck but we only had 2 guys to these trucks, so you do the same exact thing, even though you're supposed to be the engineer pumping and hooking up. So I pulled my attack lines, and I did not hook up at a fire hydrant. because that's the job of the second truck. First truck, you attack that fire. But because normally the fire station that's on the side of town, where the fire is, normally if it's supposed to get there first, so that would be the one dropping the attack lines. But it didn't get there first. I think I might have been the temporary captain that day, but I don't remember. No, I was driving. So Mike showed up in the other truck. And I got there first. And of course it got Mike mad. And we're fighting, it was house fire. Fighting the fire. And Mike's truck is there. And, you know, where the fire? House on fire. And I looked at Mike and I said, go hook up the truck. Hook up your truck to the fire hydrant. I need water. That's the second truck's job. But Mike, this is my side of town. You're the truck that... I said, look, I don't have time to argue with you, Mike. You know, I can't... But that's how Mike was. So I said, hook up the truck. And I was cursing. He was stubborn. He's going to let that house burn. Nobody was inside, but look, that's dangerous. You know, firefighters get killed every so often. And the chief heard me yelling at Mike. Chief Garza. He backed me up, the chief, later. And I yelled. I said, you know, hook up that effing truck now. Hook up. So then he went. He hooked up the truck. Now, later, you know, the chief said, look, at the scene, he didn't know everything. He said, but... you know, don't be questioning the orders, you know, do what you got to do, telling Mike, look, listen to John next time. I want to give you a feel that when I had a lot of issues you saw me deal with, and like some of the guys that I knew in the streets, and they said a certain officer, you know, blatantly, openly, you know, what are you going to do if I plant this on you, or if I do this to you, and I knew that some of those instances were like that. But the difference was, you never should have a history of being upset with guys and you plant little Xanaxes on guys and, he sat in jail for 2 years, F him. When I saw that's what was going on, I was like, you guys need to be in prison for that. That was my mindset, because I saw, they're like Mike. But you're taking it to a whole different level. See, me and Mike's a little spat like that. That's an in-house thing. It was serious, you know, but it was in-house. But then I realized you had SOB guys, like this deputy, maybe going in, assaulting women. They said at this case, there were cameras in the jail. I just read the story again today. I posted a few. I'll post this too. And they kind of caught it because... But there are cases where there are no cameras and the cops know that. And they have this type of relationship. Whether that one that got arrested, sexually assaulting that child, just got arrested. And they have that ongoing. And they have it where they're like, you know, you're not going to do nothing. And when you see, not that they all do that, but when you realize... it's a cat and mouse game with the criminal ones. And the criminal cops or deputies, when they know it's a cat and mouse game, then their next way they deal with that is they have everything on their side. For instance, they can call fellow officers and say, you know what, go drive by the mother's house, the child that I'm sexually assaulting, go drive by that mother's house, and shine the lights or do this. And maybe the other cop doesn't know why his friend officer is saying do this. Maybe the friend officer will say, you know, we have something else going. And they'll utilize the resources to cover up crimes or to commit crimes. Or let's track phones of people. I saw that. And so what you have in those cases is a criminal war. If you're sexually assaulting a child, as an officer, which that guy just got arrested, that cop in Bexar County. You have a criminal war in those scenarios against citizens, against women, and against children. You got it. Not every cop, not every deputy. But that's what I wanted you to see in those cases. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing that in-house stuff that I was familiar with, of this cop or this Mike or this fireman or this one. And then it's crossing lines where they're familiar with law, the officer, they're familiar with crimes, and so they know how to commit them. And then to use the department resources to go after those. That happens. And what that does is it puts those people and their experiences and the Sandra Bland's, they will never view police, and I've read a lot of those cases. One of the women that was raped by that other cop that was out on the highway forcing women to give him blowjobs over years. He was doing this. Pull over, give me a blowjob, get the hell out of here. Cop doing that. And one of those testimonies of that woman was like she would see the cop car drive by in her city, and it would say to serve and protect. She said she could, every time she saw the police vehicles, her whole view, she realized not only was that officer sexually assaulting her, this was that case of Holsclaw, but he was assaulting others, and it was the strength of the department and the authority he had in order to continue that serial rapist thing. For years, I'm assuming, I didn't read how many years, but he had multiple cases that he was doing that guy. So the people that are victims of that, it's not like you're complaining that Mike or someone didn't clean the kitchen this morning at fires. I saw that these things are being carried out in the public. You know, I had friends of mine that would say, man, that cop said, you know, he will arrest me whenever he sees me. And he does that. How does he do that? These are friends of mine that have long backgrounds in many things. And they just were surprised. And I said, look, I know how he does it. And the judges and all, when they sign off on all of those, okay, they might be thinking, well, I didn't know. You're responsible. You're all responsible. So I credit the sheriff there in Jim Wells. I read the story, just again as I posted, but I credit him because he said, look, as soon as the complaint came in, Alice Echo News was one of the things. He said, we went and checked it out, and we looked at the cameras. But many jails don't even have cameras. And what about the citizens that have been pursued? So you do not, in these cases, you do not have the time that's consumed for some of those cops to cover up and to pursue the people that they victimized and then to go after them. All that time and all that money, that's why you don't have a lot of stabbings, shootings, robberies. There have been many that I've read this last 6 to 8 months. I have not seen any one of those solved. And every time I see that reported, every time I see, and if you have any information, please contact Crime Stoppers. And I just started realizing they're not really, in those cases, they're not concerned with stopping crime. They're committing crime. Much of their time is consumed with continued criminal activity, to threaten people that they've assaulted, to threaten people, if you tell that I raped your daughter, we will come after you. So all the stabbings, all the shootings, all the drive-bys, there's many families that are upset right now in our city because there were murders or killings of their family members, kids, daughters, and that none of those have gotten solved. I haven't seen one of them. The robberies and went into the Pizza Hut, none of that. And it makes you think it's not a matter of there's just no tips. It's a matter of if you're spending your whole day out, or if in that county jail, if you're going to work, your mindset is I'm going to go to female cells and sexually assault all those women. You're not going to work. You're not there fighting crime in that instance. You're there with a plan to commit felony crimes. and to keep committing them, and to never stop committing them. So that's what I want you to see. That's what I want you to get out of these few videos. I'll do this one also today, and then the next video will be like a teaching video. Just for you to get the sense and the feel of how I saw a little more in some of these things I've talked about only because of that history. I'll end with this verse. I had the sword. Stand fast and prepare thee, for the sword shall devour round about thee. And that means the word of God. That means you speak truth. You speak truth. And I know many of the victims, women, when they went to speak, they were gone after. Right? They went and go to a police station and say, one of your cops is continually to sexual assault me. And you leave that station after you make that report, and they're on you, lady. They, not just one. Because the cop that is raping you, or your daughter, calls his friends, and they might not be aware that he's raping your minor, aggravated sexual assault of a child, and they might call some of their other friends, hey, you know, this car looks suspicious. The mother of the child who's distraught because the officer has continually felony sexually assaulted that woman's daughter, and he will call this, you know, hey, that car looks suspicious, pull it over. And that mother's distraught, and she just left the police station, and you pull that woman over. And if you're the cop yourself, you wait for her to be on a little road, and you pull her over. And you can even be in the act of trying to sexually assault her. And if she somehow gets into a scuffle and tries to resist and grabs you, you can murder her. And it could go before a prosecutor that you might be involved in with other crimes, because it might be one of those systems, not all of them, but some are. And you get off scot-free. And the murder of that woman is considered justified. Because even though you were committing a crime on that woman, they said, we took care of this. We pulled that lady over because she was speeding. She got irate at us. Oh, okay. You don't think that's going on? People need to understand this is going on. This is going on. That cop, that famous G.I. Joe. I'm telling you, if that didn't get such publicity, even the investigators in that department knew he was trying to get a hit to murder a councilwoman. If it didn't get that publicity, you would have never known about that. And they might have never even told that councilwoman. They might have just looked at what they were investigating with that officer, G.I. Joe. And depending on, people make those decisions. And people in those departments know each other. And there might be the guy that's in charge of, somebody reported G.I. Joe's out to murder Mayor Nelda or whatever. And that might go in-house and looked at the guy who decides there. In those cases will go to a prosecutor. But if you all know each other, grew up with each other, and maybe you have something on the guy himself because you guys did crimes together as kids, and it might just get bypassed. That's why the people that are calling for federal investigations of every killing by an officer on a civilian, they're saying we can't have these local guys that are, we can't have them doing it. Is every sheriff, every cop bad, wrong? No. But you have, and there's a fear, even in the departments where maybe these things are reported, there's a fear. Sometimes the leader of that department might not be real bad, the chief or whoever, or the sheriff, but maybe there's just a fear that, this is going to be a big thing. Is it possible that, one of my cops is out raping children? And sometimes out of fear, intimidation, the person in charge himself. Some of these cases, I didn't deal with them, but forget where it was, South Central America somewhere, maybe Argentina. But there was a prosecutor going after a high person. Of course, that prosecutor wound up murdered. They said it was a suicide. These things take place. God's ruling in the affairs of men, and what people need to do is see. They need to see. They need to see. In a perfect society, when you see a cop car or you see an officer, I read a story. I was going to post it. It was a good cop story. Some cop, just the other day I read it. Oh, he helped somebody do something. I forgot what it was. I was going to post it. It was good. Somewhere somebody was in need and he helped. Oh, there was a guy that was driving and he got pulled over because he had a few kids in his car, but they weren't in car seats. And they were going to ticket him, and they pulled him over and said, oh, you got some kids here, they need to be in car seats, child seats. And he told them, honestly, he said, I just don't have the money to buy him. And I guess he's a single dad taking those kids. And those cops bought him, they went to the store. They didn't ticket him, and they bought him child seats. Now, that was a good story, and I was going to post that story. And I couldn't. Some of them you can't repost, or, I don't know why. So I was going to post that one. But that's what we dealt with the last day or two. I wanted you to kind of follow through with that. I'm going to do a little more teaching on some of going through the book of Acts, going through the Gospels. Acts 17, 18 is interesting. The apostle, I don't want to make it a teaching video, but I won't. I'll do that in another one. This will just be an update. So follow all that. Hope you enjoyed these little updates. God bless.